Welcome to Spider-Verse Minute, the tri-weekly podcast where we watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 1 minute at a time. I'm Caroline Slater.
And I'm her brother Sean.
And today we are discussing minute 36. It begins with Miles apologizing to Peter and ends a minute later with Spider-Man sitting on a building.
What did you name this minute?
Shocking introduction.
Very apt, very apt.
I'm not proud at all. What are you talking about? This is not probably my best intro ever. Like, what do you mean?
I do like how the beginning of this minute is it's a big fake out. I think this is a good way to kind of, trick the audience.
Yeah.
It's one that's not like super built up, but is enjoyable.
Yeah, I will be honest, the first time, actually every time I've seen this movie in full, it never registered that it was a fake out for me.
Oh.
I was like...
Because it's so quick.
Well, it's not even, I never really paid attention because my focus was always on Miles. I'm like, wait, something just moved. Wait, what's happening? And then the shock happened. And this time I noticed the silhouette falling in the background, the very quiet playing of the Prowler theme underneath. Yeah. And, how when it's sneaking up on Miles, the shadow, it does look like the edge of the silhouette is very much like Prowler's cape. So I'm like, ah.
They make his... jacket, the flip up looks like Prowler's spiky bits. And I also the thing it kind of looks like when he drops down, it reminds me very much of a Batman entering the scene.
It's very Batman animated
especially
series.
With his the collars making the pointed ears.
It's very Batman.
Yeah.
I think the reason I never really registered it before is because we are still, and technically the moment for when I watch this movie, I am still in emotional turmoil.
Yeah.
At this point, I just got finished crying, and then we get the really funny moment of Miles jumping off the building, and then we get here, and I start crying again.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm just gonna go with that. My tears were blinding me, so I just didn't notice it. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
They were blinding you and making you deaf.
Yes. Well, okay, in my defense there, the Prowler theme is very quiet.
Yeah.
It is very quiet. It's very cool, but it is very quiet.
I also this is a really cool introduction of one of Miles's special powers, one of his, or I guess unique powers, one of the ones that he has that the other Spider people don't usually have, and that's his Venom Strike.
I love this. I love the way it's done too.
Yeah.
Where Miles hides his face, you hear, hey kid, touches it, and all of a sudden, electrocution.
Yeah.
It was very...
Pow!
Pardon the pun, but it was very shocking the first time.
Yeah.
I saw it, what just happened?
I also love, they do a typical thing, but it still fascinates me the way it works to trick the mind is when Peter B was getting shocked, they distorted his body to show they elongated his face and shrunk it down a little bit and made his body do the really weird things to show he was being shocked that you can't it doesn't happen when a real actor or when live action is getting shocked. They usually show
actually shock.
Yeah, they show hair, your hair stand up or whatnot, but they can take more liberties to really exaggerate that. I just enjoy that and seeing how different movies and shows show getting shocked and stuff like that, where how they distort the body differently.
And I love they actually show it twice in this minute. And we'll get to it a little more later, but I just want to talk about it now. So we show it at this time him getting shocked, and then when it gets to his comic book transition, there's, if you look at the panels in the bottom left, you can just barely see when
Like when they're flipping
Miles
through what's
shocks
happening
him.
Yeah.
Right before that, like right when it's just panning away, like it turns to the comic and starts panning away, you see like what just happened, which is, that alone is awesome. But,
Yeah.
you see shocked, and you can see that they wrote his skeleton.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. Going back a bit, I love when he's getting knocked away, he just shoots his web like almost instinctively.
Yeah, he's got such a good, like, I'm torn between whether that's him having a really good reaction time and being able to shoot the web, or like
His
the
muscles
shot just
contracted
like,
because he just got electrocuted.
Yeah, his muscles contracted, and it just so happened to get like, have a really lucky shot and just shoot Miles dead in the chest.
Could it be both?
It could very well be both.
I love what I think the thing I love most about this is that it shot Miles in the chest, and he's like, "Wait, what?" And then he just yanks,
Yeah,
and like lands face first into the snow.
Yeah, which again I think is a very good like demonstration of what like the webs are. Like we know at this point, like in cinematic history, like we've seen the Peter uses webs a lot in games and stuff, and so like you know how they work, but like if someone came into this blind, like it's a great way to introduce like, oh, there's elasticity in this webbing, and it shows that there's just not like, oh, they're touched and pulled right away. Like, yeah, he shot out a bit more extra than he needed, so it took time until it pulled him, and then like it's elastic, so it stretched out pretty tight and then yanked him in. Like it's another really good way of subtly introducing like how the webs work versus just like kind of later on in the than just like like a training montage and be like, this is how your webs work, shoot it, stretch it. It's just, yeah, it's shown, not told.
Yeah, it's a great usage of just getting that quick introduction of the webs.
Yeah.
I also love when Miles is looking at this man, Peter B. Parker. He sees the trench coat and moves it aside, and then you see the Spider-Man thing. He gets the Spider-Man set squiggles, which I love.
Yeah. Well, doesn't he get that before he moves it?
He might have gotten it before he moved it.
Yeah.
You get the Spider-Man squiggles, and I love that. Like, these weren't really called too much attention with. Like, I forgot they were there until I was watching it. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah. He gets the spider squiggle and then like takes a closer look, and like that's when he's like, oh, here's the web shooters, and here's the and then he moves the jacket across and sees it. So like
what?
He's like, wait, why is this happening? And then he sees the Peter. And there was when he's like painting over and you see like, hey, like this, you clearly tell that this Peter's different because he's got different colored hair. And he's also got a gut. And
I thought you were going to point out how he has two different shoes on and sweats.
Yeah, and the animators were talking about how there was debate as to how much of a gut he should have. And like, it's never really consistent. Like, it kind of changes throughout the movie a little bit, like how much gut is showing. And it bounces
angles,
around a little
baby.
bit.
It's angles.
It's the lighting. It's bad lighting.
You when you know how to contort your body to make it look like you have nothing, and sometimes it's just a bad angle. There's nothing you can hide.
But I thought that was really funny that he's just like, that was one of the debates we had, was like, how big should his gut be?
How heated do you think those debates got?
Oh, those were definitely like multi-hour long debates. It needs to be this thick. No, this thick. No.
But then how would he be able to do this? He needs to be this thick.
Yeah. And then we move into the comic.
Yes.
Which one of the things I noticed when at the end of the flip, so like, again, this is a real comic interior.
I thought you were about to say it was a real comic book cover for a second, and I'm like, they really have one where Peter's in a trench coat?
Probably do at some point, but...
Yes, but I mean, like, a homeless-looking Peter in a trench coat? I don't mean, like, the alternate universe. Not Spider-Noir, he doesn't count. That's part of his design.
It's, I wasn't able to find out which interior it is. But it is like from an interior. One of the behind the scenes bits I read was the artist that was in charge of all this was saying like, oh yeah, we pulled like real interiors when we could, and then like would lay out the interiors that were like mirroring what was actually happening in the movie separately. The one thing that did bother me though is as the cover's flipping, the inside of the cover is just a mirror of the cover. Like it'd be like if you were looking at the cover from the back side of it and it's all backwards, and like you would think they would just stick something else there, but maybe not. It was just like a really weird thing to happen.
Don't you see, Sean? It's a metaphor saying he's from a parallel universe.
Oh yes, obviously.
Clearly it was done on purpose and not just missed in editing.
But yeah, this one we get the Amazing Spider-Man instead of the Real Life Tales of Spider-Man, or True Life Tales of Spider-Man, and Spider-Men. Amazing Spider-Man is the title of the like real series, quote unquote real series.
Also the title of 2 movies.
Yeah, like that was what his original series was called. Was the Amazing Spider-Man.
Did you notice that? So we start with his backstory here.
Yeah.
And first off, I love how it starts with the same dialogue that our Peter Parker started with, which is, okay, let's do this one last time.
Oh yeah, and I do love how they say one last time, and then we get it 4 more times.
Yeah, we get it so many
3
times.
or 4 more times.
But another thing I noticed is that he's been Spider-Man for 22 years.
Yeah.
In his universe, Peter B. Parker.
So he's probably in his 60, 30, almost 40. Yeah, so he could have been born sometime in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, assuming he's started at the same time as, Peter. Like it shows him getting bit by the radioactive spider, which usually happens when he's either in high school or college. So he's between, 16 and 21. Put 22 years on that. 22 years from 2018 puts you at, math.
He's like late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah. And yeah, so I do like the fact though that it says like he was bit by a radioactive spider, because like Miles's was a genetically altered spider. I think Peter Parker's in this one was also a genetically altered one. And I think that's his original one was a radioactive spider, because you'll notice a lot of times the way superheroes like get their powers is highly dependent on what the like scary thing at the time is.
Oh yeah.
And so like you'll see in the like early 50s and 60s, it's a lot of like radiation and mutations and like stuff like that. Like, the Hulk was hit with a gamma ray burst, was hit with radiation, and here a radioactive spider.
Radioactive spider, yeah.
And then in like the 90s, you get a lot of like clones and like genetic alterations, and then like nowadays, it's again, you see like a lot of it going from radioactive into more like, oh, this was genetically modified thing, or
experimentation, things like that. Government experiments are a big one.
Yeah. And yeah, I think this is a good kind of call out to that. Like, yeah, this is a different Peter.
Yeah. I kept saying that Peter Parker in this universe was our Peter Parker, but I think I should be correcting in saying Peter B. Parker is more our Peter Parker. Because in his backstory, he's swinging through Times Square, and what do we see but a Coca-Cola ad?
Yeah, and you also see the police car right below it is NYPD.
Mm-hmm. Did you also notice at 53 seconds there was a taxi that had the advertisement 5W on it?
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Is that a reference to something? Or is
Not
that
that I
just another
know
one of
of.
the random numbers that we keep
I think that
finding?
might be one of those random numbers that we keep finding. Um,
I found one.
you also see a bit earlier in the when in the montage, when he's jumping off the building and doing this cool like zip zap thing. Um, he you see the Daily Bugle in the background, which is the like newspaper that doesn't like Spider-Man. Um,
Got my pictures of Spider-Man.
yeah, and then like at the end of this part of the montage that we see him standing or going to sit down on top of a like a gargoyle statue esque head thing on top of a giant building, and then yeah, he's sitting down on top of it, and I like how this same like statue comes up a couple more times throughout the movie where um, there's the when Miles finally like um, becomes Spider-Man. Like it's after they all leave him to go save the day. He stands on top of that as like as he's making his way across town, and then it comes at the very end of the movie when he's like, "Oh, finally I can put a sticker where my dad can't get to it." And so it's a neat little like this statue. I don't think it's technically a gargoyle, but this statue makes an appearance throughout the movie.
Yeah, it's very cool, and I also just like it aesthetically. Like I
Yeah,
just like the design of it.
that's all the notes I have for this minute. Do you want to talk about Peter B's voice actor now?
Peter B. Parker is voiced by Jake Johnson. He is best known for his role as Nick Miller in New Girl, that ran from 2011 to 2018. He's been nominated for quite a few awards, hasn't won any of them, but the awards he was nominated for was Critics' Choice Television Award for Best Actor in a Comedy Series, the TV Critics Association, or the TCA Award for Individual Achievement in Comedy, the Teen Choice Award for Best Actor in a Comedy, and the Satellite Award for Best Actor in Television Series, Musical, or Comedy. He wrote a play while at the University of Iowa that got him into the dramatic writing department at Tisch School of Arts, which was then produced by the off-Broadway group, the Ensemble Studio Theater. He's had various bit roles in TV and movies since 2007, and he's currently Gray McConnell in Stumptown.
Yeah, I like never really. I haven't seen anything he's been in other than this. I shouldn't say that. I think I've seen him in like some of his smaller roles occasionally, but like never really noticed him or picked him out, being like, "Oh, it's that guy." And I've never watched New Girl, but I really enjoy his work, or like I enjoy him as Peter B. Parker in this movie.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen at least some of his bit roles, because I remember the first time I saw the movie, I remember thinking Peter B. Parker's voice was very familiar. I'm like, yeah. I've heard that voice before. I'm better at pointing at voices than anything else. Than like names, sometimes even better than faces.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where have I heard that voice before? I don't know where yet, but especially if he did a bit part. But yeah, I agree with you. Does such a fantastic job with Peter B. Parker in this movie, and I can't wait till we talk more about him in future minutes.
So that's all we have for this minute. Thank you for joining us this week. Join us on Monday where we continue with minute 37. If you want to reach out to us, you can contact us on Twitter at SpiderverseMin, M-I-N, or to Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Spiderverse Minute. And if you want to send an email, you can send one to podcast@spiderverseminute.com.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.